Okay, I am back again. I apologize about that. And anyway, so Jennifer Sparks here reporting to you live from the cold climate of Connecticut, where I'm shuddering in my coldness here. And the electric bill was just really high. And on my agenda today to talk to you about is Eversource, some amendments coming to the Constitution, and this video that I'm going to start to play for you right away and just like pick it up where I was. So if you were listening a little while ago, I had to come in and come back out and start the stream all over again to deal with my technical difficulties. So hopefully that doesn't continue on as I am working here. And I think I'm all got my ducks in a row. So let's just start right here, right back at Eversource. This video that I'm about to play you started to go viral, and just take a listen and you'll see why. Oops.
I'm going to show you the craziest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. You ready? This is our electric bill for 1 month. We live in the beautiful state of Connecticut. Our total supply that we used for the month was $236.71. The transmission was $87.01. The local delivery, I don't know how the fuck they deliver it, but we have to pay for it. It's $175.16. And then we have a thing called public benefits. So this is the people who can't pay for their electric bill. And we pay for it. It's $227.76. So I am paying to keep somebody else's lights on. Excuse me, what? Make it make sense. I'm going to show you the craziest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. You ready? This is our electric bill for 1 month.
Oops. Sorry about that, guys. So you guys can all relate to this video, and this is going viral too, by the way. This has gotten
that we used for the month
already almost 2 million views. And when I first found it, it had about 1 million views, and that was just about an hour or two ago. So it's going around. We have Senator Fazio tweeted it out. It's being tweeted at the Connecticut Democrats as well as Ned Lamont. Now, the Democrats have come out with a bill which is very uninspiring to address the Eversource issue. But truth be told, actually, is that the Democrats and their policies are why we have these extreme energy bills in the first place. So it was interesting that Senator Norm Needleman, who is the chair of the Energy and Technology Committee, went on to say that we gave Eversource this monopoly. Yes, that is correct, Mr. Needleman. You gave Eversource this monopoly by deregulating so the state could regulate. So then now the only energy suppliers are Eversource and UI. But interestingly enough about Connecticut, and I've discussed this before, municipal power does exist here. And let's see if I could pull up this article for you guys that I wrote not that long ago and play a little video for you on municipal power. That is the thing here in Connecticut nobody ever talks about. I'd like to talk about that more. I've talked about this on more than one occasion. Here, I'm going to pull this up for you. So this is municipal power. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I want to keep these videos within an hour. We have municipal utilities in Connecticut. There are 6 municipal locations that do not live under the thumb of PURA and have much lower energy bills. And I'll play you this clip. This happened in the Energy and Technology Committee, the very first meeting, and one of the legislators asked a very good question. In fact, that legislator is Representative Nick Gauthier, a Democrat, actually, of the 38th District, not to make it partisan, but the Democrats in Connecticut are a nightmare, and most of the Republicans are too. It's full of rhinos. We have such a corrupt bureaucracy. Honestly, it's both parties because we have a mess in Connecticut beyond measure that is so unfortunate. But anyway, aside from that, so Representative Nick Gauthier of the 38th District of Connecticut asked a fabulous question. I'm going to play you that question right here. and take a look at some of the comments back in that post that I originally shared with you. Take a listen to Representative Gauthier's question. Let's get into the energy and technology.
So earlier in our committee meeting, we heard that under Groton and Norwich Public Utilities last year, they actually decreased rates for their customers. And just kind of putting those two pieces of information together, I'm wondering how, because they must have transmission costs and they have costs to maintain their infrastructure too, how under, say, Groton Public Utilities, they're able to decrease rates in a year and in an arena where it seems that rates are only massively increasing. Thank you.
I'd love to take a rain check and do a little homework. I suspect some of it has to do with the energy supply costs of Groton as compared to those that either were through standard service procurement or the third-party suppliers here. There are some other differences in the ways that Groton pays for infrastructure and programming, but I want to make sure that you have a detailed response. So happy to follow up on that.
I will also say, because we often hear, whether it's Wallingford or some of the other communities, right, a comparison between them and sort of UI or Eversource rates. So not speaking to what is driving a decrease for Groton, but I'll say just generally, it's a bit apples and oranges when you're talking about municipal utilities that have a very dense urban, relatively urban service territory versus like a company like Eversource that has an obligation to serve out to Barkhamsted. So when you think about vegetation management and the cost.
That's Melissa Dykes, and she is the head of the Connecticut Department of Energy and Protection. And, of course, she's making excuses for poor old Eversource. Well, they just got so much more responsibility than these smaller municipalities. So that's why they have to charge you this astronomical rate of money and the public benefits charges and all those other trumped up charges that all come in through the legislative body, including Norm Needleman, who pushed bills to have us invest in windmills. Yes, Norm Needleman, you did do that, Norm Needleman. Let's take you guys back to Twitter real quick. I am so thankful that this account over here did this. So Wall Street Apes, you guys rock. Thank you so much. This post is going viral. I couldn't be more happy with this. We have local senators tweeting it out. People are using this video, tweeting it at Democrats. People are sharing their bills. Ideas are popping off like crazy on X, Twitter, whatever. It's great. I keep thinking of it as Twitter. I don't think X is ever going to settle in for me. So anyway, here's a post that I responded to that post because I wanted to talk about Senator Norm Needleman, who is chair of the Energy and Technology Committee. And you can see who Norm's friends with, right? Here he is with Nancy Pelosi. I apologize for that. It just gets all crazy there. So here he is with Nancy Pelosi. Let me click on these. Click on this and get that drawn up there for you. We'll like transition. Oh, come on. Now my mouse isn't wanting to cooperate with me. Let me see if I could do it this way. Here we go. All right, so here we are with Nancy Pelosi and Norm Needleman mucking it up, having a good old time. Isn't that just grand? Don't you just love it? Anyway, he spent more money on his local Senate seat, outpacing all of his competitors, including when he first was running, when I bumped into him, when he first was running in 2018, he was going up against Melissa Gibran, who I was really rooting for. I was stumping for Melissa Gibran. I wanted her to get this seat, and she could have had it. It was a really tight election. This creature from the deep swamp didn't come into Connecticut easily. He ran a couple of times against, oh gosh, I forget now, but he ran and he lost twice before he finally gets in. The second time that he's running, when he's running against, he ran and lost once. And then the second time he beats Melissa Gibran, and he puts tons and tons of money behind his campaign, and he slams her. And I'll never forget talking to her, and she said, he is outspending me. He's outspending me 4-1. And it's just so unfair that somebody would be able to do something like this, honestly. So it sets a precedent to make the election very unfair. So he comes into the Connecticut legislature in 2019. He immediately is on the banking committee. He held a seat on a banking committee commission. I believe they put him as chair in his very first year as a freshman senator. And then he was appointed to the Energy and Technology Committee. He got like a prep loan and had it paid off during COVID, like $2 million. He owns this fizzy company he makes like effervescent fizz stuff. He's worked with all kinds of different companies and whatnot. He's a big player. He's a big fish here in Connecticut. And he keeps, of course, winning. I think, did he run unopposed? The Republicans don't put up much of a battle, unfortunately, in the 33rd district. Who was it? No, he did not run unopposed this time. I'm sorry. He did run, but it's really hard. There was another competitor against him, and I can't think of the name off the top of my head. Isn't that sad? I should be able to know that. But this goes to show you that contender for his seat, Denus, I think his name was. Anyway, they don't get as much coverage as Norm Needleman does. And of course, he's senator, so I've already forgotten the guy who unfortunately was running against him. Looked like a good candidate, but you're up against a ton of money. But one other thing I wanted to point out to you over here with Norm is this is Eversource stock right here. You see here, Eversource Energy, and these are the top institutional holders: Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street. So my question is, who in our legislative body owns stock in Eversource? Now, I've never FOIA'd before, but I'd love to gather with a group of people and let's like FOIA them. Let's do this. Now, I've done some workshops and I've heard, learned a lot about FOIA, but I haven't sat down to do it. Sat down to do it. And I really want to get into putting together a FOIA, which leads me into my next part of this podcast today, talking about some of the legislation coming into Connecticut. Sorry, that wasn't where I wanted to take you. I wanted to take you to the full agenda here. Let's see. Sorry about that. Where are we? Here we are. So I wanted to get into there's a hearing tomorrow up in Hartford. And I mean, you're going to have to like bounce all over the place if you're going to be up in Hartford testifying. It is the death of liberty by thousands of bills and laws and hearings. Who could keep up with this? Look at this agenda. And these are really heavy. I don't know. It is so heavy. It is so ridiculously heavy that I just almost some days just want to like throw my hands up in the air. I can't even take it anymore. I have two things that I was going to focus on, but we're going to talk a little bit about everything. They're in fact going into, they've got all kinds of stuff. Where do I even begin? So they've got an act establishing an exemption for disclosure for certain higher education records pertaining to teacher or research under the Freedom of Information Act. Why? What is that? So Connecticut has done more to squash the freedom of information than anywhere else. And I know it's really hard to do the freedom of information. I've talked to people who filed these and have really spent a lot of time and money too, sometimes having to get legal help to get the state to give them the information they want. It's not easy, and the state has made it exceptionally hard to FOIA them, to do the Freedom of Information Act. So, I do a lot of digging, and I haven't gone there yet because I get so frustrated with even just trying to get these legislators to communicate with me. I haven't gone into the maze of what doing a FOIA in Connecticut is, but they've been weakening FOIA laws in Connecticut for quite a while. Guys, I don't know. I mean, like, it's really hard in the state of Connecticut. I'm not quite sure what's going to turn it around. I don't want to be negative about it, but I just don't know what it is that's going to turn this around, because like at every point that we turn, this legislative body is doing something really, really bad. There's some really inspiring groups that are cropping up, and I'm really inspired by those groups, and I should do a whole show on the positivity in Connecticut and the grassroots activism that's starting to really flourish, and I think there's some strong voices here. So not all hope is lost, but this is very, very disturbing. So they're also they're going to do, where is this, the one that I wanted to really show you? So they have an act exempting the name and address of an individual reporting, and listen to this, right? An act exempting the name and address of an individual reporting allegations involving bigotry or bias of the alleged offender from the disclosure of the Freedom of Information Act. Guys, these laws are really, really, really creepy. Let's click on it. One thing I want to tell you, if you haven't already navigated, I am right here on the Connecticut General Assembly website. It's very easy to, I just got this right off of there. You just go into their calendar section and you go right here. I'm just going to show you real quick how you can do this. I'm going to click out of here for a second and take you right back in here. You can even just type in, I'm sorry. You just go into the Connecticut General Assembly website. You type in CGA, right? Boom. Here you are. Everything you need to follow what's going on in Connecticut. You can sign up to have bill alerts. You can communicate with your legislators through here. If by chance you don't know who your legislator is, you could find out who your legislator, your local representative and senators are, how to communicate with them and all those things. But really what you'll find, I find most helpful, this is their calendar. So it tells you all the things that are happening, and God almighty, they are so very busy up at the Connecticut legislature. So you really want to pay attention as best you can. I know people are busy working, you have lives, you have all this stuff going on, and you're just trying to pay that electricity bill and keep your lights on and pay your taxes and survive in the state of Connecticut. And every time you turn around, the legislative body is doing more to make your life harder. Okay, I'm sorry, I clicked on the wrong thing. So I'm clicking on here. This is where it's going to give me all the information because it says hearing, right? So this is where I'm going to get the agenda. You could view it live here. You just click on this link. It'll take you right to their YouTube channel, but you're just going to view the agenda. You can even see their speaker order if they have that posted up. Let's see if they have the speaker order posted up. So right back here at the main website, just looking at their calendar here, they do make that easy. Fortunately, it's a good website. We'll give a shout out to the government for that the website is decent. I shouldn't say that because they'll probably redo it, make it so confusing that the average citizen won't know whether they're coming or going. But this website is pretty decent. So you click on that and it'll give you view a speaker order. And what they usually do is they have all of the higher ups, the people from the stakeholders, as they would call them, before the people actually get to talk, and they'll give their, hour of testimony. So that's usually it. But this is, you could see the testimony lineup for all the people testifying. There's a lot of testimony here because there's a lot of bills. So let's view the agenda. So this is the agenda for tomorrow. This is insane. Look at these. Look at how many of these there are. This is just for tomorrow, by the way. And these are heavy-duty bills. So the best thing to do, you can easily go find this online yourself. This will be linked in my Substack where I put all my show notes are always going to be in the Substack when I do this live. And bear with me as I get that up onto the Substack. It may not go up there today. I'm hoping to try to get it up there today. But this is like very, very concerning. So the two acts that I wanted to focus on was I'm just looking on here, they have stuff on AI. Okay, here it is. An act concerning the evaluation of the updating in state forms and applications to include non-binary options. We've already changed all this paperwork for the transgenderism, and allowing people to say they're the wrong sex than they actually are. And that's concerning for numerous reasons. That's not hate or bigotry. I'm not going to ever back down from that statement. It's not hate. It's not bigotry. I'm sorry. Sex is immutable. It is a biological reality. Nothing will ever change that. There is a tsunami of lawsuits that are just about to just like boom, it just explode, because these young people who have had all of this medicine, transgender care, if you will, where they're given shots of Lupron and wrong sex hormones into their body, are having huge health issues. Some of them sterile, young girls with double mastectomies, young men who've had totally castrated their penis into something that will never be a vagina. Excuse me, I have to use this language to describe this because this is very serious. Okay, this is no joke. This is sexual mutilation. This is like, I just saw on Twitter, actually, the WHO putting out, we don't want any more genital mutilation on girls. I'm like, but you support this transgender medicine. I can't even call it medicine, this transgender experimental pharmaceutical and surgical experimentation on mostly children at this point. And if adult wants to go and chop up their body parts and has full informed consent, hey man, have at it. Go for it if that's what you really want to do. But taking a child and blocking their puberty and promoting this type of ideology, which is, there is no way that you can justify this in any ethical means, that you can justify removing the healthy breasts of a teenage girl. There's no way you can do that, or putting a little boy on Lupron to the point where he never goes through puberty and has a micro penis, or putting a little girl on testosterone and having her have male pattern baldness and having a total menopause at like 18, 15, whenever they're on these drugs for years, they go into early menopause. This is crazy. You cannot change your biological reality. That's not hate. How did we even get to this point in life where that could be considered? How can it be considered hate to say what is a biological fact? That's not being any kind of bigotry or hate. That's just biological fact, but not in the state of Connecticut. So here we go with more of this insanity. So here's that law. And then the ones that are really scary are the amendments to the Constitution. Sorry while I find those on this crazy list here. The resolution ratifying proposed amendments to the Constitution of the United States permitting regulate child labor. Resolution proposing a state constitutional amendment to allow individuals who have attended the age of 16 to apply for admission as electors. Wow. My gosh, they're amending the Constitution. I didn't even realize these two. I guess I didn't get down the list far enough because I was so shocked about where I was at the other part of the list. Oh my gosh. There's so much here. I don't know. I reject it all. I don't want any of it. An act concerning revision of the Freedom of Information Act, another hit on the Freedom of Information Act. So there's two bills in here on freedom of information to weaken the FOIA laws in Connecticut. Oh my gosh. So an act concerning the adoption of municipal conflict of interest provisions. Interesting. An act concerning the elevation of updating the state forms. That's one we just read. Now, where the heck is the I know it's on here somewhere. The implementing and the risk. Here, I do have it over here. Sorry about that. I do have it up here. Okay, resolution proposing the constitutional amendments concerning discrimination on the basis of sex and equal protection clause. Let me just double check that agenda and make sure that that is what's happening on tomorrow's agenda. So that's SJ number 35, and I don't see it here. So that hearing is not happening tomorrow. No, here it is. I'm sorry. My bad. I need my glasses. So yes, that hearing is happening tomorrow. So this is the one that's very concerning. This is the resolution proposing a constitutional amendment concerning the discrimination on the basis of sex under the Equal Protection Clause. So what this bill does is if you don't agree, like could I be in trouble for talking about this transgenderism and saying that sex is immutable, that there's no way a boy could be a girl or a girl could be a boy or a man could be a woman or a woman could be a man. You could be presenting more masculine or presenting more feminine, but you're not, you don't get to change who you are and then enter spaces that are for women. Women and men are different. Women and men are different. I mean, it's obvious, isn't it? But what happens is that a lot of situations have happened where we've seen in female sports. Now, President Trump signed an executive order. Sorry, executive order is not legislation. President Trump signed an executive order stopping little boys from playing in girls' sports. And that's a big, huge win. I don't think Connecticut's going to recognize that. There is something called states' rights. And I agree with that. I agree that states should be separate from the federal government. I just, unfortunately, am in a state that is out of balance in a total dictatorship. I mean, I don't have a voice in Hartford. My Senator Norm Needleman, he never responds to me, ever. I've sent him more letters and stuff, not happy with all that's going on. He doesn't listen. The Democratic legislature doesn't listen. I've been up there a million times. They don't listen. They don't care. They just pass these laws. Still fight back because things can be stopped. So don't take my really negative look at how bad our state is and not take action. You can still take action. Don't not take action. Call your local representatives. Call them. Let them know how you feel about this particular bill, which allows abortion up to the 9th month and amends our Constitution to do it. So New York has just passed something similar to this, and I don't know. Let's just see. Well, let's look at the language here. If it'll let me click on that. Here we go. Let me click on that language there. Sorry about that. Here we are. So this is the language. The following be proposed as an amendment to the Constitution of the state, which, when approved and adopted in the manner provided by the Constitution, shall to all interests and purposes become part thereof. Article 21 of the amendments to the Constitution. So here's what they're amending, that we already have this. Nobody should be discriminated against. Fully support that. We don't need to amend our Constitution because we already have equal protection under the law, and we have, you don't discriminate against people. Look, I'm not going to discriminate against somebody who is a man who's dressed as a woman, as long as, just stay out of the women's ladies' room and stay out of the locker room, sports, and all the things that are uniquely for women, and dress as feminine as you want to be, but you're not a woman. You're not a real woman. It's just not the case. I'm not playing this game with you. I'm never going to play this game with you. In Connecticut, this has just gone way too far. And wait till I share this other thing with you guys. It is really upsetting about how bad this is. So, okay, so this is what they're going to do. As used, this section, discrimination, exercise of enjoyment. Oh, this makes me so upset. So you're a 12-year-old girl, you're a mom with your 12-year-old daughter, and a man comes into the ladies' locker room. You've just been swimming. You and your daughter want to go into the shower. You've done this before, never had a problem, right? You had a younger daughter 10 years ago. She's 22 now. Now you got a 12-year-old daughter, and you're taking her to the Y or to wherever, swimming lessons or what, and you're changing. And a man is there. And he's intact, but he is identifying as a woman, but he has a right to be there. And this is going to be amended into our Constitution, that those rights are part of the Connecticut Constitution. Talk about the exercise of enjoyment or of civil or political rights because of sex includes, but it's not limited to, discrimination in the intent or effect based. Now, this is where they add the abortion part in, okay? Based on pregnancy, including preventing, initiating, continuing, or terminating pregnancy, sexual orientation, gender identity and expression, and related health care. So that that glob of language is very radical. and going to seriously change our Constitution. Now, what this does is it can allow abortion up into the 9th month of pregnancy. I think abortion every abortion is a tragedy. I agree with Bobby Kennedy on that one. Every abortion is a tragedy. I'm of a libertarian mindset more than Republican, where, you know what, I'm not going to put my morality onto anyone else or what I think onto someone else. It's not my business, right? To a degree. However, when you go into the 2nd and 3rd trimester, it's murder. You're killing the baby, and you're seriously traumatizing the mother, who doesn't realize what some of these mothers, and I know too, women personally, who have been through this procedure and say they regret it to the day of their life, and it was very traumatizing and horrible, and they had no idea, and they wish that they never were able to do such a thing. Both of them were very young, and they had no idea. They didn't understand. They did not understand that they would give birth and then they would be killing their baby in that process. I know some people just don't how could you think that way? But there are people who are traumatized and young and make poor decisions. Okay? So now our state is going to codify this into law. It's unbelievable. It's actually quite shocking. So this is SJ. Hold on a second while I pull this back up. This is SJ 35, and the hearing is tomorrow. You could still submit testimony, but you won't be able to testify unless you probably go up to the Capitol building, and you can testify on Zoom for that as well. So let's move on to the next thing. They have they're going to be, I'm sorry, let me pull this back up here. Back to the agenda. Oh my gosh, my dogs are whining over there. Okay, hold on a second while I pull this agenda back up. So we're going to go back to their agenda. I'm just going to go back to the main site. Hold on a second. All right. So we'll go back to their agenda here. Now, they also want to amend the Constitution to change, to do what is called like a 30 by 30. And I'm going to get into that with you too. So they want to also amend the Constitution to do what would be known as the 30 by 30. And let me just, it's environmental justice, they call it. I don't remember what the number was off the top of my head. So it's an act that makes environmental justice, and it really just gives them, where the heck is that? An act concerning the Legislative Commission. There's just too many things here. And they're going to allow 16-year-olds to apply for admissions as electors and to be so admitted upon attaining the age of 18. Resolution ratifying the proposed amendment to the Constitution of the United States permitting Congress to regulate child labor. I don't know what that means. And there is, I'm going to pull up the environmental bill. Gosh, where is it? I thought I would have that up in there. So let me just give you a quick thing on 30 by 30. It isn't what it seems. And the 30 by 30, let me just see something here. I don't want to do that live in real time. I think I'm going to save that for another show because I'm running low. I'm going to save the 30 by 30, and you got to call your legislators about the amendment for the SJ 35, and there's a few other bills. Let's just go back over here and look through these again, and I'll get into the 30 by 30 with you on another podcast. So we want to get into SJ 35, a resolution proposing a state constitutional amendment concerning discrimination of basis of sex and equal protection clause. Oh, here it is. Sorry, I'm blind as a bat. It's right under there. It's 35 and 36. What is wrong with me today? I apologize about that. Oh my gosh. So here it is. Let's just talk about it since I pulled it up. And these hearings are both tomorrow. So this is a resolution proposing a state constitutional amendment concerning environmental rights. Let's take a look at this bill. Here we go. Constitutional resolution. The following proposed amendment, here we go. Each person shall have an individual right to a clean and healthy air, water, soil, ecosystem, and environment, and a safe, stable climate for the benefit of public health. Hold on a second. Sorry about that. Oh my gosh. Hold on a second. So, the state shall protect these rights equitably for all people, regardless of race, ethnicity, tribal affiliation, gender, socioeconomic status, or geography, recognizing all of the residents of the state, including present and future generations, as beneficiaries of a healthy environment. The state shall conserve, manage, protect. Listen to this. The state shall conserve. I wish I could blow this up for you guys a little bit. Listen to this. This is really, really scary. Okay. The state shall protect these rights equitably for all people, regardless of race, ethnicity, tribal affiliation, gender, socioeconomic status, or geography, recognizing all the residents of the state, including present and future generations, as the beneficiaries of a healthy environment. And the state shall conserve, manage, protect, and maintain for these beneficiaries all of the natural resources of Connecticut, including its waters. All of the natural resources of Connecticut. Does that include what's in, like, my well? Does that mean the state's going to be, like, on my land? Now, some people might be like, this is great. This is for the environment. No, it's a Trojan horse. This is what let me just keep reading this. So, let's see, here we go. Any funds supporting protection of the state's natural resources shall not be diverted. The rights stated in this section are equivalent to all other inalienable rights, may not be infringed on, may be directly invoked and enforced by the residents of this state. Resolved, that the foregoing proposed amendment to the Constitution to be continued to the session of the General Assembly elected at general election to be held on November 3rd, 2026, and published with the laws passed as the present session to be presented to the elections at the general election. So people are going to vote for this. And I believe they're going to vote for both of these, if I'm not mistaken on that. Because when you amend the Constitution, you do need to take it for a vote. So people are going to vote on this. And they did the same thing in New York, a similar thing, not necessarily with the 30 by 30, but they did it with the abortion and the transgender stuff. So just pay really good attention to this as it's happening. And let me just take you over here real quick before I get into this really shocking story. So this is the 3030 project, and it's all of it. It just sounds so wonderful, you know. And this is what they're trying to do. So it's Nature as an Asset Corporation. Go look that up. Nature as an Asset Corporation. In fact, Children's Health Defense does a show called Financial Freedom. And they had a guest on there who's a lawyer who's been fighting the 30 by 30, gets really, really deep into what 30 by 30 is and the ramifications of it. All these things are always presented like this is for the betterment of the environment. It's for a good cause. This is good. This is good. But the reality is it's going to put us into a situation where the state is controlling all of the land and the natural resources. And with that, you have a lot of public-private partnerships involved with the state. The state isn't this, altruistic entity, a representation of the people. By far, it is a corrupt, gigantic, enormous bureaucracy. That's what the state has become. That's what it is. So that's this 30 by 30, and this gets really involved, and I should write a whole article about that and dive into that in a way that it can be very coherent and understand it instead of like kind of jumping all over the place. So I just wanted to turn you on to those two amendments. They are going to have to go up through a vote. They has to get voted on to put it on the ballot in the first place. So that would be for next year. One of the problems is, and this is always they strategize these things, and one of the problems is that they do this on an off year where more people vote during presidential elections. That's just the sad truth. So what could happen is that they'll put a huge media campaign out there because we have a state-sponsored media here in Connecticut. People think that these things are wonderful, especially in a deep blue state like Connecticut. And they'll think this is wonderful, and they'll vote to pass both of these things in. And I gotta say, I don't know. I think that's a nail in Connecticut's coffin, in my honest and humblest opinion there, because this is like, I mean, they're going to control everything. They're going to control the land, the water, the air, everything. They're just going to control it. And also, Senator Anwar has introduced bills to require permits for cloud seeding. So they're finally recognizing that, yes, they are spraying chemicals into the sky. Senator Anwar has a bill for cloud seeding. So it's just mind-boggling. So let me go back over here, and then I'm going to start to wrap up. But I wanted to take you into here. Let me take you right here. This is my latest article in Substack, and I was absolutely shocked by this story. You can follow this account on Twitter, Redux, which is a great, if you got the stomach for it. So I have a link to Redux in my Substack article, but let me just give you just a little brief synopsis of the article and why it's so very, very shocking. So back in 2007, anybody here who's been in Connecticut for a while has heard of the Pettit family, the Cheshire murders, and what happened there. There was a family, the mother and daughter were followed at the grocery store home. This man, Joshua Komorjeski, followed them home and stalked them. And later that night with his friend, Stephen Hayes, broke in, hit William Pettit, the dad, in the head, knocked him unconscious, tied him up, and they raped and murdered Jennifer Pettit and her two daughters, Haley, 17 years old, and Michaela, 11 years old. And being a mom, this story just hit me really hard. Every time I drive past the Cheshire exit on my way home, I think about that. I think about those little girls. I think about their mom. I think about William Pettit. I wonder to myself how he survived. He did survive, and William Pettit went on to be state representative in 2017 and served till 2022. And William Pettit has been through the most traumatic, awful thing. I don't know how this man still holds his head up every day and is the person he is. He's a really, really nice human being, very brave person. I met him a few times at the Capitol, had a few conversations with him. He's a very kind person. He fought really hard to keep the death penalty, because the death penalty was abolished shortly after the conviction of Komorjeski and Hayes, who were on death row. Their sentences were overturned. So William Pettit sat through the trials of these murderers. They did it in cold blood and had to sit through all that. And then he had to go and fight the state of Connecticut, became an advocate for the death penalty, and was fighting the state of Connecticut to hold on to the death penalty. And, honestly, with like this type of crime, I always had mixed feelings about the death penalty, because there could be this innocent person and blah, blah, blah. These guys were not innocent. There was no case. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If anybody should have gotten the death penalty, these two men deserved the death penalty. And so a court in 2015 in Connecticut, after the Connecticut legislative body abolished the death penalty, in 2015, the Connecticut Supreme Court would rule that Komorjeski and Hayes was unconstitutional to put them to death. So during that time, Hayes specifically has been making headlines. Every few years, you see this creep show up in the headlines. So when he was first convicted, he'd said that, or he was first in jail, he was saying that he was a serial killer and he killed all these young women and girls and whatnot. And he said he killed 17 young women. He later recanted that. And then he went on to demand kosher food because he had converted to Judaism and sued the Department of Corrections to get kosher food in jail. The man that strangled, raped, and killed Jennifer Pettit, put gasoline on her body and set the house on fire and left her daughters to die. Wanted kosher food, right? And he lost his case. Well, now Stephen Hayes has found his true self. He's now a woman. That's right, guys. Stephen Hayes is being treated. He's getting hormone replacement therapy, whatever, wrong hormones, wrong sex hormones, wearing lipstick and putting a bow in his hair and identifying as a woman. This was covered in Newsweek, and I quote, this is Newsweek 2025. This was published in 2025. This is Hayes. My whole life, I hid who I truly was and tried to deny it to myself. And Newsweek has the audacity to call Hayes a she. This man raped and murdered women, okay? He raped and murdered Jennifer, and I believe that he raped and murdered the other. I don't even like to think about it or even rehash what happened to those young girls, 17-year-old Haley and 11-year-old Michaela. He is a rapist. He is a murderer. But now Newsweek is using his wrong pronoun, whatever that means, because this is ridiculous. So I'm just going to say he, because it is a he. So my whole life, I denied it to myself, he said. I had so much hate for who I was pretending to be. I stayed high and always wanted to die. So he goes and kills other people. Right? He's making this excuse. He's using this as an excuse. So then he's changed his name to Lee. So Stephen Hayes is calling himself Lee. And he says he returned to his cell and flushed 4 bags of heroin and fentanyl down the toilet. How did he get fentanyl and heroin? And when he has like 5 life sentences, like, you know something? I'm sorry. He committed one of the most brutal, heinous acts I could ever imagine. I don't know. I feel like he should just not even be on this planet, in my opinion. I'm sorry. That's just the way I feel. In 2019, a year after learning the diagnosis decades earlier through a 1979 psychiatric evaluation, Hayes, that calls himself Lee, spoke of his sexual identity during a podcast as he received hormone therapy at SI Green. So this man is getting hormone replacement therapy. He raped and murdered and killed the family. He left he traumatized the whole state. He traumatized the town of Cheshire. He traumatized the Pettit family. He took the lives of innocent people. And now we as taxpayers are paying for him to have hormone replacement therapy. Unbelievable. So there he is. There's a picture of Hayes with a dog? With a dog? What has he got on there? He's got a phone too? He's got headphones and his dog? Man, we're paying pretty well for these violent criminals to be living in jail. Who is this dog? How does he have a dog? Oh, I'm so cruel. He's being rehabbed, right? He's changed. He's turned over a whole new leaf. No, he raped and murdered and violently murdered. He set these people on fire. He left their children to die in a burning house. No, an eye for an eye doesn't solve a problem, but this man is atrocious. Why are we paying for him to have hormone replacement surgery? Or whatever. He wants to get a boob job. Who's going to pay for that? He's in Oregon right now. Connecticut taxpayers are paying for this man to be housed in a prison in Oregon. Okay? How much is that costing? We could have had him be on death row, where he belongs, honestly. Where he belongs. But no, okay, so fine. He gets his life sentence commuted, but maybe it should be like, it's more like jail. And you get 3 meals in a cot and a little bit of outside time. You're lucky you get that. But no, he's got lipstick. He's got his hair in a bow. He looks like he's growing some boobs. I don't know what that is. I'm not sure if it's a phone or what kind of device it is. He's got this dog. He's got some, headphones there. There he is, Stephen Hayes, living it up. He's got a girlfriend or boyfriend. I don't know, whatever. He had some relationship. His name is named after this partner he had in jail. Is he going to end up in a woman's institution? Who is paying for his boob job? So Newsweek refers to Hayes as she and attempts to paint a picture of a traumatized Hayes that finally found his true self, his womanhood. Now listen to this. This is also in the Newsweek article. The vast majority of inmates in Oregon State Penitentiary are men, but Lee said she is able to wear makeup. I'm sorry I said it just because I'm reading it. Hayes said that he is able to wear makeup, eyeshadow, foundation, eyeliner, and even lipstick on occasion. He also cherishes his jewelry, including rings and necklaces, as well as bras, panties, and what he called a slightly feminized uniform that had eliminated his thoughts of suicide. He's now seeking breast augmentation and hair replacement therapy since male pattern baldness drastically enhances his gender dysphoria. And the state of Connecticut wants to change their constitution to make this easier and try to normalize this transgenderism. And we're in a culture war. We're in a culture war. It's raging in Connecticut with numerous non-governmental organizations that promote transgenderism in our public spaces, government buildings, and schools. They are all heavily funded with the state and federal grant money. Federal grant money is stopped at this time, thank God, but the state is not about to back down. One last thing I'd like to take you to. This is from the Connecticut Sentinel. So he's just one of my favorite guys, this guy Tong. So this is a shout out to the Connecticut Sentinel. I've subscribed to them on Substack. They also have a webpage of their own. And so there he is, William Tong. Attorney William Tong. Today, I believe this was yesterday. Yes, yesterday. So Attorney General William Tong joined a coalition of 14 other attorney generals to reaffirm their commitment to provide access to so-called gender-affirming care. That would be off-label pharmaceutical drugs and experimental surgeries. Off-label pharmaceutical drugs used in an experimental way that's never been studied for the long-term effects on children. And surgeries that leave children permanently mutilated for the rest of their life, sterile and unable to breastfeed their children or even have a functioning, normal, healthy sex life. And ironically, they call this medicine. And the order says medical professionals are maintaining. Okay, so this is based on Trump's, Trump put out an executive order. And with executive orders, they don't immediately become laws, but they're a stepping stone. And I have mixed feelings about the tactic of executive orders because I don't like any kind of leadership, making laws via executive fiat. I love what is happening with a lot of this stuff, and that I think it's really important protecting children from chemical and surgical mutilation. If there's any executive order I'm ever going to want in life, this would be one of them. And so I think that's great. And getting the biological males out of girls' sports is huge. I think that's terrible. It's happening to all these young athletes who work their whole careers as young people to play these sports, to be pushed out of their own game. We have women's sports for a reason, and that should be only open to biological females. If you have a problem with that, I'm sorry. That's not hate speech. That's just a fact. And to twist that into something hateful is madness. So AG Tong says that gender-affirming care is essential life-saving medical treatment that supports individuals in living as their authentic selves. No, living as your authentic self is living in a healthy human body. Your authentic self is being in your biological body. So Tong goes on to say that the executive order is wrong on science and wrong on the law. No, Tong, you're wrong on science and you're wrong on the law. The coalition is the typical what you would think it would be. It's California, Colorado, Delaware surprised me a little bit, Hawaii, Illinois, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, New Jersey, New York, Nevada. Those surprised me a little bit too. Rhode Island, Vermont, and Washington. So I don't even want to show this picture because it's so disturbing. It's a picture from Libs of TikTok. What they do is for the girls to make a skin tube that they call a penis. They take off. Well, I'll just show it to you. Yeah, that's your gender affirming care. I'm not going to harp on that. And then that note. On that note, I'm going to close out today's show, and I hope I didn't jump around too much on you guys, and I apologize for some of the snafus, and I can't see, even with my glasses on, that happens. But there's a lot of stuff going on in the legislative body where they're going to be amending the Constitution and they're putting out really bad laws, and I didn't even get into the A through A-30G, and work, live, ride, which is something else that Governor Lamont is going to put through. But that's my plow guy finally here making a tremendous amount of noise, and that's my cue to go. Until we meet again in the cyberlands, adios, amigos.